cream of the crop! Nobody does it better.
Hey, but you are so money and you don't even know it.
I understood that reference.
Morning, Mr. Hamill.
Your mission.
Should you accept it? Steal, destroy, shadow, disappear.
Assemble the team.
And here we go.
Greetings and salutations. Welcome to Freewheeling Fridays. As a part of the Madness Entertainment Group, I am your host, Ryan of Anti Quote Channel. This is the show where we interview some of the best creators in the world, and we find out more about them by taking your questions. And we also talk about other things like pop culture and days over here, days over there. Oh, yeah, it's Superman Day. For those of you wondering, it's Superman Day 2025, and that is really super, in my opinion. That is just amazing. But outside of that, our guest for this episode of Freewheeling Fridays, please welcome the writer, the editor, or maybe he's just a lazy writer according to his name tag. Please welcome Tom. Tom Mason is here. That's an odd thing to say, but Tom, it's good to see you. How are you?
It's an odd thing to hear that Tom Mason is here. So I never, it's funny. I never gotten that introduction from any of my friends or family before. It's like, hey, Tom Mason is here. So it feels good to hear it.
Well, you're quite welcome. We aim to please. Do not forget to like and share this with all of your closest friends. And if you're joining us live or on the replay, thank you so much for doing so. If you have any questions for this writer, editor extraordinaire, Tom Mason, let us know in the comments. Let us know in the chat. And off to the side as a side order, if you have any thoughts on the Man of Steel himself and the new movie coming out in July or anything that involves the iterations of Superloop of Superman, since it is Superman Day 2025, let us know in the comments. Let us know in the chat. We're more than happy to hear from you as we go throughout the course of this program. So without any further ado, Tom Mason, I'm just curious, when were you first introduced to the world of comics?
Well, I think with a lot of people of my generation, it came by accident, where whenever I would get sick as a kid and my parents would have to go to the drugstore and pick up my prescription to take, they would always bring back comic books, and they would always bring back stuff that they had heard from TV or movies or whatever. So it would always be DC stuff like Batman and Superman, because those were the things that they knew existed on television, and those must be good for a sick kid. And so then I started to get, I'd get random issues of Batman, Superman, Justice League, whatever, when I got sick. And then I started looking forward to getting sick, because that, to me, that meant not only was I staying home from school and I was going to watch old TV reruns, I was also going to read a bunch of comic books. And then I started to realize that I could probably get comics without getting sick. And how could I make that happen? And then I realized there's an entire network of drugstores, 7-Elevens, newsstands, or whatever, where comics come out. And, so that little taste of comics as a sick person suddenly led to, I just got to have more of these. And that's sort of where it all began.
All right. Well, see, when I was feeling under the weather and I was sick home from school, I'd be watching episodes of Bryce is Right with my good friend Bob Barker.
That's right. Don't forget to spay and neuter your pets.
That's right. Don't forget to spay and neuter your pets. Play some Plinko. Win up to $50,000 in cold hard cash. With those Plinko chips, right? You remember that?
Yes.
You had the Misty Mountain game. You had the numbers game. You had Lucky 7. You had to pick the right number of the car. I mean, oh my gosh.
My favorite to this day is still watching them play the final Showcase Showdown, where because I had it on today, because I have TV on while I work, and the person was off by like $29,000, and they won because the other person was over, and so it's like, mind-blowing.
I was gonna say that's shocking to me. 29 grand behind. Ugh. Man, how can you put a bid together that was so low or something like that? Jeez.
Yeah, it was terrible. But it was great because they won everything.
Yeah, I'll give you that. That's fair. Yeah. I mean, my favorite game was always Plinko, and I liked I'm trying to think. Punch a Bunch was kind of fun. That was a fun one. Punch a Bunch, where you punch a hole in this board that has different cards with different increments of money located inside of it. I mean, what was it? There was also the dice game where you had to roll this big red dice across a board, and sometimes people wouldn't even get it across the line because I'm like, how hard could it be to roll a piece of styrofoam, whatever it was, whatever materials it was made from, by the way, roll it over this line to get a different number, and then you have to say, okay, is this the right number? And if it's not the right number, do you think it's higher or lower than what is being presented on the dice? I'm like, come on, people. It's not that hard to roll this thing across a white line. I'm sorry.
They show old Bob Barker ones on, I think it's Pluto TV. And you can watch it, and you can sort of see where Bob Barker is trying really, really hard not to just roll his eyes. That some of the either don't have the physical strength or don't understand the game or like way off on what the prices really are.
That's true. That's true. He's got a point there. Yeah. So definitely, hey, feel free to check it out on Pluto TV. Watch some reruns. Why don't you? It's the good old days, right? There were some classic game shows out there. I mean, we all watched Price is Right. We've all been there when, Who Wants to Be a Millionaire? What was it called? There was Wild Cards. There was Pressure Luck with Peter Tamarkin back in the day.
That's right.
I mean, what was the Card Sharks was another one.
Yes.
Password
and there's
Plus.
What's the game with the whammies where you
that was Pressure Luck. No whammies. Only big
that's
money.
Right. Yeah, no whammies, no whammies, no whammies. Yes.
Yeah, it was Peter Tamarkin was the original host. That was back in the day, and then they did a remake / reboot of it with Todd Newton on the Game Show channel, the Game Show Network that was on at the time, and then they rebooted it years later with Elizabeth Banks of all people. And I'm like, Elizabeth Banks is a game show host. I mean, she's an actress for sure; she can do it, but it's like, get a game show host. We don't need a Hollywood, somewhat of an A, B lister, whatever it is, actress hosting this show. I just thought that was bizarre.
But the era of the great game show host seems to have passed.
Yeah, it's sad. It's sad.
And also the era of the really like the game show host that sort of came out of radio and then moved into game shows. That era is sort of over, and now it's more celebrity stuff.
Yeah, it's not the same as it. They don't make them like they used to.
End of an era.
That is end of an era. That's right, Tom. That's right. Absolutely. So going along with the comic book theme here for a minute, what are some of your favorite comic book writers or artists? Any names stand out to you?
From the original days when I started out?
Yeah. Well, this could be past or present. Doesn't matter.
All right. So, I mean, the first ones that I took notice of that I really liked were Denny O'Neil, Claremont, and Jerry Conway, because I was a big fan of Jerry Conway's run on Spider-Man. I was a big fan of Denny O'Neil's work on Batman, and I was a big fan of Claremont on, oddly enough, on a book called Marvel Team Up, which I really loved, and Doug Mensch on Master of Kung Fu. I mean, those guys they really stuck out for me as writers that wherever they went, whatever they did, I was going to trail along, and I was going to plunk down my money. So those were the early sort of not really influences, I guess, but early writers that I was a fan of.
Great names too. No slouches whatsoever. Great names, big legends. Did a lot of great runs on many different characters, I would say. Amazing. Spider-Man. Just say I had to throw it in there once because I grew up watching the 90s and the 80s reruns of the 80s animated series. Spider-Man and His Amazing Friends, Spider-Man, and Spider-Man 94 because I'm a 90s kid of Fox Kids, so they had 90s Spider-Man, 90s X-Men, the animated series at the time, which was really, really good. Great runs there.
What was it like growing up seeing all those people, all the characters come actually on TV and not just in comics?
Yeah, it was great. I ate it up with a spoon because when I was a kid at 6, 7 years old back in the 90s, great decade, by the way, I was watching all these shows. I was watching Batman and Superman and the the X-Men, the Spider-Mans, and that's what got me. Those TV series specifically introduced me to the Marvel and DC universes because I watched the Christopher Reeve movies, of course, and I grew up on Tim Burton's Batman movie for sure. I watched that movie billions of times. Right. And as you can see, I'm a lot happier. So I love that movie. I love it to pieces. I can quote it like nobody's business. I can probably quote it better than anyone in Hollywood right now. So, I grew up on those movies, but like the TV series is what really got me into the Marvel universe, particularly with Spider-Man and X-Men and some of the other characters that were being featured at the times. And then when the live action movies came out in the year 2000, 2002 with Sam Raimi's Spider-Man and, Bryan Singer's X-Men, I was like, oh my gosh, these animated series are cool, but like I'm seeing this in person. This is live action. This is the real deal. and it was great. I just love it. I have so many different reasons to appreciate and respect these characters. And of course, I've read some of the Spider-Man comics. I've read a little bit of X-Men, not a whole lot of X-Men. I've read X-Men House of M, which I thought was a good storyline. That was a good run. Spider-Man, I read, what was it called? Spider-Man Kraven's Last Hunt. Kraven's Last Hunt. That was a great storyline. That was iconic. For sure. That was a good one. I wish they would adapt. I mean, they can't do it, but I wish they would adapt that into a, what do you call it? Live action movie, but they tried and they failed because they made a spin-off movie called Kraven the Hunter that nobody saw. So, yeah, well done.
It didn't feel like Kraven.
No, it did. Yeah, well done, Hollywood. Get out of here. Didn't work. That was not spectacular, and it certainly wasn't amazing. So get the frack out of here. But anyway, those are some of the characters I grew up on as a kid, and those are some of the comic books that I enjoy. I do have the Kraven's Last Hunt as a Marvel Epic Collection trade paperback in my two or three short boxes of comics that I own. Because I mean, I'm very particular about what comics I get, and the other thing is I prefer trade paperbacks.
Right.
As opposed to the single issues, the original issues of the comics, respectively. It's just I prefer to have the whole story as a sandwich and not have to get all these little crumbs and pieces and put them in these long boxes. I mean, hey, for those of you who collect the floppies and the single issues, more power to you, because I know a guy who has like 130,000, single issue comics of a certain run of characters, and I'm just like, okay, you're going to need a much bigger house, a much bigger storage locker. Just I can't do it. I can't do it. So.
And it's a lot if you have to move.
Oh my gosh, it is a pain in the neck for anyone who has to move from one location to another, and they have to take all those, what is it called, the single issue comics in their long boxes, and just it's town getting too rough for me. So it just doesn't work, man. But those are just my 2 cents. If anyone else has any thoughts on how you collect your comics, by all means, let us know in the comments of the chat. I'm just curious to hear what is known as your 2 cents on that matter. Aside from the fact that we missed the days of the classic game shows, are there any other TV series or movies that you enjoyed when you were growing up, as a youngin?
Well, I mean, I was a kid, so I had kid sensibilities, and it was the golden age of TV reruns when I was growing up. So I grew up watching thousands of hours of I Dream of Jeannie, Gilligan's Island, Bewitched, The Addams Family, The Munsters, Leave It to Beaver, because that was really all that was on at the time that I had been allotted to watch television. So when I would come home after school, whatever was on from like 3:30 to 6, that was my golden TV period. And so I just watched tons of way too much television, I think. But I got absorbed into just having that as like my warm, glowing friend, because television never betrayed me.
Yeah, there you go. Good ones too. Yeah, I remember watching reruns of I Dream of Jeannie and the Munsters too. Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
yeah.
And then,
Barbara Eden.
And then stuff.
Yeah, Barbara Eden. Yeah, she was a knockout.
And then there's stuff like Johnny Quest, which was a huge influence. Because when I first saw it, I didn't understand how animation actually worked. So I was fascinated by the character of Johnny Quest and the story, and the fighting all the evil stuff. But I also was fascinated. I would stare at the screen trying to figure out, because I didn't understand that you draw them and that somebody actually draws all the individual frames of the character moving. So my imagination was sort of running wild with how do they do that? What's the technical process? And it didn't occur to me to actually ask anybody. I just sort of lived in my own head trying to figure it out, and I never came up with the answer until like a couple of years later, where it's oh yeah, they draw these things. There's a talented bunch of people that work long hours drawing, inking, coloring, and painting these things.
Yep, takes a village. Teamwork makes the dream work, as we like to say around here.
Certainly in television and comics.
Yeah, I mean, it may sound silly, but it's very, very true. It takes a team to build these things up and bring them to life, whether it's a cartoon, a piece of comic book artistry, and all that kind of jazz. And once again, we are here with the iconic writer and editor. If you just want to call him a lazy writer, that's fine too. Tom Mason is here with us on Freewheeling Friday.
It won't hurt my feelings.
Okay, all right. I just want to make sure. I want to be respectful of everybody in the studio. So if you like what you see here, make sure you share it with your friends. If you're joining us live or what is known as a replay, This is Memorex. Thank you for doing so. If you have any questions, drop them in the comments, drop in the chat. Love to hear your 2 cents on the matter. What made you decide to become a writer or editor?
I didn't really. It wasn't like this thing where I grew up thinking, oh, I want to write Spider-Man or Superman or whatever, or oh, I want to get my stories out of my head and onto or whatever. I hadn't even thought about being a writer for years. I started out being a cartoonist, and I taught myself how to draw, and I was having cartoons published in magazines, and I thought, well, that's the way I'm going to go. And then I transitioned to that. I started working for Fantagraphics Books, and I was an art director and designer when I was there, and still hadn't thought about being a writer. And then when Dave Olbrich got the money and the idea to start Malibu Comics and invited me to join along, I was just the creative director. I was going to be an editor and sort of half-time art director for Malibu Comics, and still wasn't going to be a writer. And then I did a couple of fill-in issues for some comics, and I thought, well, this is kind of fun. I'll maybe I'll do more of that. And so I fell into it in the dumbest possible way. And I know there are people who struggle, and they have ideas that are burning in their head that they've got to get out, and they got to find a publisher, or they got to get them on the air or whatever. And they struggle for years. And I just sort of fell into it like a big dopey guy. So it wasn't until I saw the stuff in print that I thought, oh, I would really like to do this. And that's sort of where I wanted to transition to being a writer, or at least writing stuff on the side of whatever job I had.
Oh, wow. All right. I got you. And by the way, shout out to our good friend over there, Silverline Comics, Roland Mann. Make mine Silverline. Yeah, Roland Mann. Can't forget about him.
That's right.
That gentleman over. I got to tell you, Roland sticks out like a sore thumb, because that accent and the way he just presents himself, about whether it's a Kickstarter or a GoFundMe comic kind of thing, just it's infectious. Every time he pulls up his wristband and he pulls it up for the screen for everybody to see and hear, it's like, okay, Silverline it's there. It's in our face. We got it. Like, it's very. He will stand out in a crowd for sure, no matter where. The thing
about Roland is, first of all, he's tall. So he's like,
isn't he? How tall is he? Like 6'5"?
Yeah, he's somewhere like 6'3", 6'5". Like he's basketball tall, and he'll probably kill me for this, but he's like authentic. Like, the Roland you see on the air is the Roland you'll have lunch with. He's the Roland you'll hang out with. Like, he's 100% Roland all the time. It's not like you meet him and you go, well, you're nothing like you were on your show, or you're nothing like I expected from your books. It's like, no, he's all Roland all the time.
Mm-hmm. He certainly is, and he's got that infectious voice. Make mine Silverline. Good to see everybody here. It's Silverline. And he got that whole thing shebang going on, and we love him for it.
And he loves comics, like more so than I do, more so than anybody I've ever met. He eats, breathes, sleeps comics.
He truly does. He truly does. And I respect him wholeheartedly for it. I really do. One of these days, which is what we hope to do, is get Roland, some of the crew over there at Silverline Comics, and get them up here to the Northeast, because I'm in Maryland, over here in the Northeast of the United States. So, Roland, we got to get you guys up here, because you're always so used to being down there in the Sunshine State at your Daytona Beach Comic-Con this and this other Comic-Con over here in Florida and that. It's like, listen, I get it. Florida's the Sunshine State of America. I get it. But, like, you got to go up here and see what's up there. Because
they got the Georgia, Florida, Alabama corridor, where there's, I think there's like a Florida convention like every other weekend.
Oh, my gosh, Florida. Are you kidding me?
They're everywhere.
Yeah. The Florida market is huge, and Roland knows this, because the guys over there, Silverline, all you guys have been doing it for so long. It's like, there's something going on every day of every week. It's like, well, why don't you bring that to the Northeast, Roland? Wake up, pack your van, pack your Silverline van with all your comics, bring them up here. We'll hang out. We'll get you a table. Get you and the crew up here. Get you. What is it? Tim TK. We get Barb Kahlberg. Whatever it is. Like, get them all up here. Honestly.
Well, Barb's in like Iowa, I think.
Yeah, she's all the way over. Yeah, she's like all the way over here. And I'm like, come on,
Right.
get it out. Bring it over here. No. We got to get her out here because if you build it, he will come, Roland. If you build it, he will come. All right, we got to make this happen, bro. But yeah, no. Silverline's been very, very good to me. Silverline Comics at the Madness Entertainment Group, very, very good to us. So no problems whatsoever. But just out of curiosity, though, what would you say are some of your favorite comic book movies or TV series? Is there any of them out there that you've enjoyed over the years?
Oh, good Lord, yes. Well, first of all, it's weird because I think, when I was growing up, a new comic book based movie or TV series, they were few and far between. And you just, you lived for whatever showed up and you felt like you had to love it because it was going to be a long time before there'd be another one. And now it's like a golden age where every time you turn around, there's one. And some of them are just great. And some of them, are kind of less than great. And so I think it's fantastic to me that we live at a time where we can love certain ones and not like certain ones, and yet they'll still make them. And it's not the death knell. And so my favorites, I think, were like, I love the first Superman movie when it came out. I love Superman's first night, that whole sequence. I could watch that over and over again until the day I die. I think that's a perfect sort of little mini movie of what I think Superman is or should be or whatever. But I like in the modern era, I like the first Iron Man movie because that sets up Tony Stark's 23 movie character arc and establishes the Marvel Universe. I like Captain America Winter Soldier. I think that's fantastic. I like Men in Black, which is also based on a comic book. I like, man, I'm going to lose track of them. I liked the first Thor movie really quite a bit. I liked Guardians of the Galaxy, the first one, quite a bit because it's one of those things where I never thought they could pull it off. Like, I was a fan of James Gunn's movies before then, but Guardians of the Galaxy to me were like, it's same with Ant-Man. Like, when they announced an Ant-Man movie, I thought, what the heck, Ant-Man? Ant-Man's like the least of the Marvel characters, and yet they turned that thing around and they made a really good Ant-Man movie, which something I thought I would never say. And so my interests run the gamut of the last 50 or 60 comic book movies.
Yeah, it's a big list. Whether it's from Marvel Studios, DC, whatever. There's so many studios out there. I can't keep up with this stuff, but. Good names though. Yeah, first Thor movie still holds up. Ant-Man, I didn't think I was gonna like, but Ant-Man turned out to be really charming and funny and really good too. And it's a heist movie, yeah. So
yes, and
Ant-Man's good too.
And that's the thing about the early Marvel movies is they fill in these archetypes. Like the Winter Soldier is really a 70s paranoid thriller, like All the President's Men or 3 Days of the Condor or whatever. So it takes that classic structure of a movie that we already know, and it layers in all this superhero stuff and does such a great job of it that it almost creates its own second genre. And Ant-Man is a heist movie. Like, how would you I couldn't even imagine pitching that, because okay, we got a character who rides around on little ants. What do we do? Well, we're going to do a heist. It's genius.
Yeah, it's kind of a little bit of Ocean's 11 there. But by the way, Madness Entertainment Group, which is being run by Pop, says Tom, and then he also goes on to say Barb Kahlberg is actually in the state of Wisconsin, not Iowa. I was like, all right,
listen,
all right.
Same to me. It's all this. Look, it's all the same state.
It's over here, over there. It's
they're all there. That's Minnesota, Wisconsin. Yeah. My friend Dave Obrich is from Minnesota, and I get Minnesota and Wisconsin interchanged all the time. I just don't know. I was watching TV in high school. I didn't pay attention to geography class.
Yeah, I didn't really pay much attention to geography when I had to take a class for it when I was in college back in the day, Tom. So yeah, I feel you on that. Not really my cup of tea. Particularly because I was watching a whole bunch of TV series, back in the back when TV was
It's because
actually
they're broadcasting. I'm not. I don't need to know where Wisconsin is necessarily, but I do need to know what
yeah,
the
and
plot of My Dream of Jeannie is.
yeah, who shot JR on Dallas?
That's
Like,
I didn't see that coming.
yeah, I was like, wait, I think something happened to JR or something. They shot him.
I
Someone
think
brought that
Maggie
up in
Simpson
another
shot
movie.
him.
Yeah, one of the two. Yeah, exactly. And I thought to myself, wow, okay, this mystery went on for a good while. And then when they solved it, everyone was like, oh my God. So it's just one of those things. What are the what are the biggest rewards in your opinion for being a writer or an editor?
Wow. All right. So I think a big reward of being a writer is that I get the luxury of setting my own schedule. Like I've had, but that's only fairly recent because I had corporate jobs where I worked 9 to 5. And then one of the things that I learned very quickly in a corporate job is that I don't like corporate jobs and I don't like working 9 to 5. I don't like being stuck on somebody else's schedule. So the big reward to me when I made the transition to full-time freelance writer was that I could set my own hours. And that means, to me anyway, that means I could write on my own schedule and not just 8 hours a day. I mean, I still write 8 hours a day, but I break it up. It's 2 hours in the morning. It's 2 hours in the early afternoon. It's 3 or 4 hours in the evening. And in the meantime, I'll go to the movies. I'll watch TV. I'll goof around with friends. I'll go out to lunch. I'll whatever. So those are the big rewards, I think, of being a freelancer. And but being an editor, I think the biggest reward for being an editor is actually finding a new person, finding a new talent, finding a new writer, finding a new artist, being able to put them on a project where their talents can sort of manifest. I don't think there's anything, for me anyway, as an editor, there's nothing better than finding that new thing, that new title, that new story, the new creators. I love that part.
Well, I can certainly dig that. Flip side of the coin, though, what are some of the biggest challenges about being a writer or editor?
Well, so the biggest challenge about being a writer, a freelance writer, is that you never know when it's gonna end, like when it's gonna stop, and you're always like, being a writer is like, I don't know, 40%, 30% actual writing, and the rest of it is trying to network and come up with other stuff and look for another job so that when your current job is up, you can have another job. I think a lot of people, like I'm used to it, and so it doesn't bother me, but I know that it bothers a lot of other people who are always hustling and always, stressing out about, is this the end? Has my career dried up? Is nobody going to ever hire me again? I need to get paid in 2 months so I can pay my rent or pay my car payment or whatever. And I understand all that. But it doesn't freak me out like I know it does other people.
I see your point. Good one. And you brought up some, I guess because this journey can start one day and it could be gone the next. So you just gotta ride the wave. You gotta ride the wave as long as you can.
Because we see it all the time. Because there's no real full-time job in comics, or full-time writing job in comics. All writing is freelance unless you're editorial and you're on staff. And we see it all the time where people will be on a book for like a year, maybe a year and a half, and then suddenly you don't see them on a book for like 6 months or a year. It's like, well, what are they doing to make ends meet? And you'll find out that a lot of freelance writers, they marry well, and so their partner has a really good job, and their partner has a really good job that has really good benefits, like healthcare and dental insurance and that kind of stuff, and can make the mortgage payment when your career sours for a little while.
Exactly. The more you know. Exactly. So completely understand where you're coming from with that, and thank you for sharing that with us. And For those of you who are just joining us, this is Freewheeling Friday as part of the Madison Entertainment Group with the lazy writer himself, Tom.
That's right.
Do not forget to exactly right. Do not forget to like and share this. And if you're joining us live or what is known as a replay, thank you for doing that. If you have any questions for this incredible writer and editor, he's not lazy, but let us know in the comments. Let us know in the chat. It's just, I see it every time it pops up on my screen. I'm sorry. Eyes are drawn to it, folks. What can I tell you? Attention to detail is very important in this business. So, but if you have any questions for Tom, let us know. By all means, I'm just saying. By all means, let us know in the comments. Let us know in the chat. We do want to take this opportunity to say thank you to everybody who has taken the time to be a part of the Madison Entertainment Group, whether you've been a guest, whether you've been a producer, all that kind of stuff. We also have our good friends who we do our best to support with their projects, whether it's the next book, the next piece of artwork, whatever it may be. So we want to take a moment and say thank you to the following folks. Take a look.
Beyond the world we know is a place where reality bends and time stands still. A place where legends, fairy tales, and nightmares are real. A world where legends are born and destinies collide. Alice has spent her life lost in an interdimensional rift known as Wonderland, and it forged her into a deadly bounty hunter. With her ancient clockwork guardian Big Tin by her side, they hunt the things that stalk the shadows of Wonderland. Alice Lost in Wonderland, issues 1 and 2 launch May 6 on Kickstarter. Follow along at GoMrFish.com.
Well, those are images that are going to creep me out tonight, so thanks, guys. I want to give me some nightmares early before Halloween there. MEG, the Madness Entertainment Group? Get out of here. No, I'm just kidding. Congrats to all those projects and people who got stuff going on. We appreciate you guys, and we wish you the best of luck with everything moving forward. What advice would you give to aspiring writers or editors out there, Tom?
Well, oh my God. So you mean in terms of just trying to get published, or trying to get their work seen, or just
trying to get their work seen and getting started in the business?
Well, I think the path to the business has changed in so many different ways over time. It used to be you'd work on your samples and you'd try to corral an editor at Marvel or DC to try to get you a job or whatever, and that path is closed. That doesn't exist anymore. And so, you know, if people still want to, people still dream of drawing Spider-Man or writing Batman or whatever, more power to them. But that's not going to happen. I think the best thing you should do is work on your own stuff, create your own thing, and be happy making your own original intellectual property and publish it. Either make your own comic, do it on Kickstarter, or do some kind of web comic like Webtoon does, or and be part of that network, or just publish it yourself on your own. Because I think that's the only, I mean, there's no money necessarily in that. Like, you're not going to make a killing, but you're not going to get a job at Marvel or DC. And so I think you might as well just explore your own creativity and make your own thing. And that's the advice I've given everybody for like the last 8 or 9 years. It's like, there's no other, I don't see another way to do it that's as clear as that is. And there's a tremendous satisfaction of like, oh, I made this. This came out of my head. I partnered with an artist or a writer and letterer and colorist, and we put together a business plan and we kickstarted this, and it paid for itself. I mean, that's tremendously satisfying. Way more than just writing an issue of, Batman.
Yeah, definitely. I'm Batman. Sorry, when I think of Batman, those are some of the things that came to my mind. But because I've seen so many different movies and so many different iterations of the character announce those magical words every time they grab someone by the throat, trying to almost throw them over the cliff or throw them over the, what do you call it, over the roof? Throw them off a roof, don't kill me, man. What are you? And that's Keaton. I'm Batman. So
that's
best I can do for you. It's just one of those things, for sure. Have there been any special memories for you from being at conventions or other events, whether you're there as a vendor or there as an attendee?
Yeah, I think the thing is that I love comic book conventions. I love going to them. I love seeing, because having a comic book store is one thing, and seeing comics in a store, that's great and everything. But seeing the actual industry on display at a Comic-Con like in New York or Phoenix or Chicago or Los Angeles or San Diego, when you see it all sort of laid out, and you see the big publishers and you see the medium publishers and you see the individual creators working on their thing, and you see all the artists set up in Artist Alley, I think that it gives you an idea of the scope of the industry, how big it is, and how many opportunities there actually are that exist for people who want to create stuff. And so I think for me, I'm going to go to San Diego. I've already got my hotel room. I already got my ticket. I'm going to go this year again for like the 15th or 20th year in a row. Because a lot of my friends are there that I get to see once a year, but also I get to see all the new stuff. I get to see what everybody's doing, and I get to see where things are creatively, and I get to see what sort of shape the comics industry is taking. And so I love that. I love shows. I was at the New York show in October last year, and I saw an entirely different bunch of friends and creators and books that hadn't necessarily made it out to the West Coast. And I just loved it. I couldn't stop grabbing stuff. And so I love conventions, and I think they're sort of a vital part of the business in the same way that distributors are, and the same way that retailers are, and the same way that printers are. So I don't know if that answers your question or not, but there's my answer.
No, I got you, man. You just like being in the zone and just being a part of the whole experience and all that jazz. So I get that. I get that.
And there's a thing where, I mean, over the years I've developed tons of, everybody has different layers of friendships. There's like really good friends, and there's like acquaintances, and there's your people that you run into once a year or whatever. And we all tend to talk about the same things. We're all talking about pop culture, all talking about movies, all talking about TV, all talking about comics, all talking about, other stuff too, but that as well. And I don't get that where I live. So it's exciting to be around other people who are sort of in that same headspace, in that same zone. So.
Yeah, I get it. I mean, I've been going to Comic-Cons for 13 years. So just being in the atmosphere, being around everybody and talking with people, having conversations, whether it's with the artists, the vendors, the exhibitors, the celebrity guests I've met over the years. I've gotten some really good autographs, some really good selfies. I'll tell you that, brother. Pro photo ops. Oh my God. Those turned out so very, very good to me. So it's a vibe, man. You just gotta feel it. You just gotta feel it when you walk into the room. You just feel it. So,
and
I get
it's like a little bubble. Like the outside world suddenly disappears, and I don't care about news. I don't care about baseball. I don't care about all the other stuff that I normally care about. I'm in that little 2 or 3 or 4 day bubble of comics and pop culture, and it's a world that I didn't realize would exist when I was a child. And so when I step through those doors and it opens, you can see it. The whole world sort of opens up. It's like I'm sort of in a small bit of heaven.
Exactly. Or if you're in certain cases in certain places, and more specifically a certain state, you just got to ask someone, "Hey, is this heaven?" No, it's Iowa. Yeah.
That's
Hey,
right.
if you remember that movie from back in the day, which is quite good and still holds up 35, 37 years later, bless that film's heart because I love it to pieces. Because if you
Top
build
five
it, Roland,
baseball
they will
movie.
come. Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah, for me. I mean, I would put that in the top 5 baseball movie. Also, I would put A League of Their Own in that too.
I would too. That's a
League of Their
great
Own is
movie.
pretty good. It's a great movie. Love that movie.
And
I actually met.
go ahead.
Oh no, I was just gonna say I met Kit Keller herself. I met
Oh,
oh gosh, why am I blanking on her name? But
Lori
yeah,
Petty character.
Lori Petty. Yeah. I met Lori Petty at a Comic-Con. She signed my League of Their Own Blu-ray. She signed it number 32 or 32 Kit Keller. Dash, her real name, and I was like, oh, this is awesome. That's prime right there, Tom.
Yeah, because her performance is so layered and so interesting, and she's such and I mean this in a good way. She's such a weirdly quirky actress that I mean, she really sort of sells it. So
Yeah, she totally does. Yeah. Meeting some of the celebs I've met over the years has been very, very good to me. I mean, just have you had an interaction with a comic creator or someone, whether it's one of the comic book people or one of the celebrities you've seen at these conventions that you really enjoyed a conversation with? Anyone in particular, or you just like the whole
yeah,
experience in
so
general?
it wasn't so much that I had a conversation with him, but I sort of I eavesdropped. I leaned in. I was at this was, I don't know, 10 maybe 15 years ago. I was going to meet my friend Jim Chadwick, who was an editor at DC at the time. I was going to meet him at the DC booth just to connect and set up a dinner plan with a bunch of friends. And he was there, and he was talking to another creator whose name escapes me now. And then there was a fourth person there. So it was me, it was Chadwick, it was this other friend, and then I realized that the fourth person was the actor Bill Duke from Predator, and from a bunch of other things. He's also a director, and he's been in tons of movies. And I mean, I'm a fan of his in general, but I also know not to, like, don't fanboy out because he's just there hanging out and talking stuff. And so I just sort of hung out and listened to him, and I was part. I mean, he and I didn't have a specific conversation, but I was part of the general conversation that they were all having. And then, of course, after he said goodbye because he had to go do something else, I was just like, "Oh my God, that was Bill Duke." So, so that's sort of how. I mean, I'm cool for like 5 minutes, and then I have to fanboy out as soon as their back is turned. So that's because I've never really had like a negative or weird reaction with anybody I met at Comic-Con. And I met Lita Ford. I met Alexander Siddig from Star Trek Deep Space Nine. I met well, now I can't even recall them, but I met Diane Franklin from Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure. And they've all just been, I mean, I understand they're all sort of working at the show, so they're on their best behavior and on their best persona. But yeah, they've all been great.
Good stuff. And Geekman Master of the Thunder Nerd says, "Hey, how's it going, y'all? Good to see you, good sir. Geekman Master of the Thunder Nerds. Yeah. Let's see. Someone just dropped me a little note here. Let me see if I can find that. Oh, I see what you mean. Gotcha. Oh, speaking of which, someone wants to give a, if I can find it here, thank you, appreciate it. Someone wants to give the Madness Entertainment Group a quick shout out here, so let's go ahead and roll the footage.
Hi, this is Eddie Deason. Listen to the Madness Group, the greatest podcast on radio. I love the podcast. The Madness Group is my favorite show. I listen to it all the time. This is Eddie Deason saying hi on behalf of the Madness Group.
Wow. Okay.
I first saw him in what's the Steven Spielberg movie that takes place in World War II, where they think the submarine is going to land off the California coast?
Is it 1984?
No,
or 1948, 1984, one of the two?
1941, I think it is.
1941. I'm sorry. Jeez.
Yeah. That's where I first saw Eddie Deason sitting up in the Ferris wheel with the ventriloquist dummy. And then War Games, which I think came out in the same year. I think. So
yeah, that was. Yeah, that Matthew Broderick, right? Wasn't that War Games, Matthew Broderick?
Yes.
And Ali Sheedy. Yeah. That's what he wants. And then Madness Entertainment Group goes on to say he cracked us up when we were filming it. He said, "I'm not going to say what you want. I say go for it, bro." Okay.
Well, he went for it.
Yeah, he you know, I've seen that man, Eddie Deason. I saw him in a movie called Spy Hard with Leslie Nielsen.
Oh yeah.
Back in the day. He gets spat on by the woman who says, you know, my father was twice the man you are. She tries to spit at the antagonist, and it lands on this other guy, and I think that was Eddie Deason. And she says, "Hey lady, I think you're taking the spitting and everything a little bit too far." Yeah. It's like, what the heck is going on? But I think that was him, Pops. I think that was the same guy. I'm pretty sure it was Eddie Deason. I might be wrong here. But, man, he's been in a lot of stuff over the years, hasn't he? Gee willikers. You know, man, you know, also, for those of you wondering, this is the greatest episode ever of Freewheeling Fridays with the lazy writer himself, Tom Mason. Don't forget to like and share.
Greatest episode ever.
It is, right? So don't forget to like and share this. And if you're joining this live or what is known as a replay, exactly, right, Tom? If you're watching this on the replay, thank you for doing so. So let us know the questions you have for Tom or myself in the comments down below. And the Madness Entertainment Group continues to go and says, let me see here. He says he knew it was a YouTube channel. We called it a radio show. We were laughing so hard we couldn't say anything. He was in Monster Madness. Okay, Monster Madness.
There you
go. Okay. Yes, that's another one. Jeez. Wow. It's a long resume here, folks. Excuse me, for sure. Something I want to share with you, Tom, and someone who may be watching or listening to this right now, if we can bring this up here. Let me see. Where did I find it? There it is. So some of the things you've worked on billions of things over the years. Your resume is 600 miles deep, and I can't even begin to fathom what the heck is going on with this thing. But what is it? Star Trek Deep Space Nine. What was it like working on that title? Star Trek DS9. What was that like? Being an editor on that.
So I was the original launch editor, and we had just put in a proposal to snake it away because DC had the Star Trek license at the time, and DC had been sort of convinced that when Deep Space Nine came out that they were going to get it, and we crafted a bid for Paramount that was better than what DC was offering, and so we snuck it away from them with the caveat that, well, this is so important to us that we're going to put one of our top people on it. And it wasn't that I was a top person, but I was a partner in the company. And so it made it look to Paramount like, you know, one of the partners is going to be the editor. And so, so I became the editor because I was a huge Star Trek geek. And originally Chris Allman and I were going to edit it together and co-edit it, but he got super busy with the Ultraverse and passed it on to me. So I was the solo editor. And what I discovered is that my association with Paramount was that they're fun. They're really easy to work with, but they have very specific Star Trek rules that you can't violate them. And I'm a kind of person who I don't believe that. And so I was always trying to push stuff forward and push the boundaries of what we could do and to try to get a yes. And so my goal was to collect pitches from writers who wanted to work on the comic and sort of push them forward to Paramount, but I also knew that if Paramount turned down an idea, that idea was dead, and they would remember that I pitched it before and would come back to me and say, we've seen this before in a different form. And so I mean, they're just very smart, sharp people, but they never gave me a problem. Even when I pushed a boundary pretty hard to try to get something happening, and they pushed back, but in the nicest possible way. I mean, they could have just they could have really yelled at me, but they were just super kind about it. And so my experience with Paramount was that that it was really, really positive, but it's a highly structured environment in which you have to work.
I see. Rules and regulations, or in other words, resistance is futile.
Yes.
So, it's just one of those things. It's too bad we never got a DS9 movie.
You want to know how I pushed the boundary?
Yeah, go ahead. Feel free to share with us. Yeah, go ahead.
All right. So we had a night. So one of the reasons how you can make a licensed property work for comics is that you have a limited amount of time for the term of the license, and if you do one book a month, that sort of limits how much money you can make to satisfy the terms of the license and to still make a profit. And so the goal was always to do two Star Trek Deep Space Nine books a month. And one of the ideas that we had was that we had designed our own character, sort of for lack of a better word, a space pirate who would come back and forth since DS9 was a space station, he would come back to the station every now and then, but then he would go off on his own adventures, and those adventures would be in a separate book. They would still tie into the Star Trek book that we were doing. And we had Jerry Bingham do a character design for him, and we had a little backstory written up, and we pitched it. And I don't think the fax had even cooled off before they just said, no, you can't create your own Star Trek character separate from the cast and crew. So that was the end of it. So we had to come up with another way to get the second book out.
Oh man, what a bummer. That's a buzzkill, someone might say. But gotta do what you can with what you got. Well, all right. But congrats on the Star Trek DS9 titles, the ones that did come out and all that stuff that was working during the time. Does that, just out of curiosity, is that your favorite Star Trek series? Is he your favorite Captain Sisko, or do you have a favorite out there?
No. So two things. One is that I was only the editor on like the first few issues of Star Trek Deep Space Nine, and all the great stuff that came afterwards. That all came from Mark Panicia, who took over for me, and then he transitioned to being like a super editor at Marvel after that. And so he really was responsible for DS9 after I left. But my favorite Star Trek series, oh my God, this is all sacrilege, I guess, because I like the new movies that came out with Christopher Pine. I really liked the first one, which I know that torches and pitchforks come after me when I say stuff like that. And I really like Star Trek Strange New Worlds. I'm working my way through the second season now on Paramount Plus, and I really get a kick out of it. I think it's really it fascinates me. It's a good character mix, a good story mix, and so I like more of these modern Star Trek things where I'm not. I mean, I find I probably shouldn't say this. I love the original Star Trek series, but I think it's not the kind of thing where you can introduce a new person to and say, this is where you got to start. Because it's great for me because I remember seeing them when they originally aired in syndication, but it's not a good starting point for a person who wants to be a Star Trek fan, like in the right now. And I never liked Next Generation or Voyager. And I thought Enterprise had promise, but it took a while before it actually got to a point where I was interested. So I'm a lazy Star Trek fan, I guess.
Add that to his repertoire, folks. No, no,
That's
no.
it.
It's all right. I didn't get into Star Trek until much later in the game. I didn't grow up on any of the series or the books, comics, anything of that nature. I didn't get into Star Trek until during, I think it was before during lockdown. I watched the movies on Blu-ray because we were all locked away in our homes at the time.
Right.
And I watched them and I thought, okay, these movies are cool. And I remember seeing the rebooted, the Kelvin timeline, the Chris Pine, J.J. Abrams series, 2009, and then the first one's fun. Like, I like it. I don't love it. I mean, I actually am one of the few. This is going to sound like sacrilege. I like Star Trek Into Darkness a lot. To be honest with you, I liked it.
Oh yeah, the clown one.
Yeah. I liked it very much. And then Star Trek, what was it? Star Trek Beyond was fun. It was a fun movie, and they include the Beastie Boys song in there, which I thought was pretty damn cool because it was in the trailer and ends up in the final cut of the movie, which is very rare in Hollywood because a lot of things that are in the trailer, they end up on the cutting room floor. They don't actually end up in the flipping movie. So, one of those things. But my favorite Star Trek is my favorite crew / captain is Picard and TNG, and my favorite Star Trek movie is Star Trek First Contact. That's my favorite. But that's just me. Everybody else is, and that's fine.
I like the Picard crew, but only when they started making the movies.
Yeah,
I was not a big. It took a long time. The problem that I have with Star Trek Next Generation is that everybody is too nice and too kind, and they're solving problems. So it really seems like space therapy and not really, gung-ho Star Trek to me. I have a different version of Star Trek in my head, I think.
I gotcha. Understandably so. But yeah, those between Tom and I, those are our 2 cents on the the Star Trek. What do you call it? The Star Trek fandom and the property. The property is the better term.
Right.
Another thing I'd like to share with you, who may be watching and listening to this right now, more of your 600-mile-long resume. I see Malcolm in the Middle is listed here, and I'm thinking to myself, wait a minute, Malcolm in the Middle, the show with Frankie Muniz before he was Frankie Muniz, and also the show with Dr. Tim Whatley from Seinfeld, also known as Bryan freaking Cranston, who's done a billion things in his career and who's kicking tail and taking names as Heisenberg. What's his name again? Heisenberg. You're damn right. Over in Breaking Badsville, Walter White was his real name on Breaking Bad. But what was it like being a writer on Malcolm in the Middle here? This is interesting.
So So what's interesting about the Malcolm stuff is that I had been, as a freelancer, I'd been sort of underemployed. And I had a writing partner at the time, Dan Danko. And we had worked for a producer on an animated series that was one of our first shows. And he was friends with an editor at Scholastic Books. And so he called us up one day and said, hey, listen, I'm friends with this person at Scholastic. They have the license for the Malcolm in the Middle books, but they don't have a writer yet. And I know you two guys are nothing but smart alecks and don't take anything seriously. And you sound like you'd be Malcolm's kind of people. Do you have any samples of books that are in that kind of style? And I had learned over the years, it's an old actor's trick, which is when an actor's up for an audition and the producer says, hey, can you ride a horse? The first thing you say is, oh, absolutely, I can ride a horse. And then if you get the job, you have a couple of weeks to go out and learn how to ride a horse. And so when he said, do you guys have any samples you can show for the editor when she calls you up? We said, oh, absolutely. We absolutely do. And we didn't. And so I got this is the old days before the internet really sort of existed. I drove into Hollywood. There was a bookstore on Hollywood Boulevard where you could buy scripts and screenplays. And I got the pilot script from Malcolm in the Middle, and we rewrote that script as for 3 chapters of a proposed book. And then like 3 days later, she called up and said, hey, you were recommended to me, blah, blah, blah. Do you have a sample of a kind of book? And I said, funny thing, we happen to have a sample Malcolm in the Middle book that would be our pitch. And she said, well, send it over and, I'll read it and see what we can do. And so we sent over a sample and they were ecstatic. They loved it. They signed us up to write these Malcolm in the Middle books. And the Malcolm in the Middle books had to be vetted by the producers of the TV show Malcolm in the Middle. And then they liked the book so much that they said, well, we don't want you to do adaptations of our scripts anymore. We'd like you to do some original ideas. And so then we were pitching original ideas for some of the books that we were doing. And then they liked those so much, they realized that Dan and I both were in Los Angeles, and they invited us to come into the writer's room and pitch some ideas. And so we went to the writer's room of the TV show, pitched some ideas for the show, and then ended up getting some work from that. We got some credits on the show. And so that, again, that's just the stupid way that things sort of happen.
Right place, right time, right season, all these kind of ingredients kind of mixed together. And
yeah, well, it's recognizing the opportunity and understanding what you can do to sort of make that opportunity manifest itself. Because it could have easily just gone in some horrible direction and, you know, been a grumbly sort of story that I tell at a bar somewhere, but it doesn't. It actually has a happy end.
Yep. Ah, there you go. And you mentioned the word Scholastic. I definitely think of the Scholastic book fairs. I remember those, you know, carts being rolled into the schools, and teachers and administrators would get ready to pop those babies open. We would get the catalogs, right? We would take them home to our parents and be like, hey, Mom, Dad, these are the books I want you to get me. I'm probably not going to read 99% of them, but can you buy me these books anyway? Do you mind? And they're like, yeah, sure, we'll buy them for you. Why not?
That's why I think I love Comic-Con so much, is because they remind me of like a Scholastic book fair. They remind me of getting that newsletter at school with all the books that you could buy. That's a high that I still try to capture.
There you go, man. I like it. Scholastic book fairs, Comic-Cons, all put together. Similarities, differences, they all smash them together. It's a nice big sandwich. It's excellent. No, seriously. And some of the titles here I did recognize when I was looking through this. The Rising Sun reruns and The Man Who Laughs. I know those two. You know, whether I think it was it Jim Beard and some of the guys over there at
The Man Who Laughs.
Yeah, crazy. Yeah.
The Man Who Laughs is Lou Tambone and Rich Handley, and Rising Sun reruns is Jim Beard.
Yeah, some good people out there for sure. I know Jim Beard. He's a good guy. He's done a lot of great things in his career.
And those were things where, like in the case of the Jim Beard book, he just posted on Facebook, "Hey, I'm thinking about doing this kind of book about the Japanese animated TV shows of the 60s and 70s. What do you guys think?" And I had like a pitch ready in 5 minutes, and I just texted him and said, "Hey, I've got this. Are you interested?" And he said yes. And so I think that's another thing where it's like, you know, don't always wait around when somebody has an idea like that. Seize it, make your pitch, see what you can do. And it was great. Jim was great to work with too. He corrected all my typos and gave me some good direction. So I'd work with him again.
Yeah, he's got a lot of passion, man. He's got a lot of passion. A lot of passion for what he does, and a lot of passion for telling good stories, or getting his what do you call it? Like his love of different characters and fandoms out to the public. He wants people to know about this kind of stuff.
Yeah, and he's another guy who has recognized that these are my passions. These are the things I want to do. I might as well do my own book, and so he started his own book publishing company, and he makes his own books. And I think that's far superior to just trying to put together proposals and pitching publishers.
Fair point. And The Man Who Laughs, I mean, the iconic villain known as DC's Joker, my gosh.
Yeah.
That villain's been around for so many years. I mean, we can dive into so many different aspects of that one.
He's Batman's evil clown.
Yeah, it's, yeah. I mean, you know, whether it's what do you call it? One of those hand buzzers that actually fries people to death, like it did in Batman '89 with one guy. You know, Antoine got a little hot under the collar. You know what I mean? You're crazy. Have you ever heard of the healing power of laughter? I mean, it's just, Jack Nicholson, we love it. I mean, just out of curiosity though, what's your favorite iteration of the Joker in live action form? Is your favorite Heath Ledger?
My least favorite's Jack Nicholson.
All right. I'll let that slide.
Why is he your favorite?
Because I love that movie. I love that movie, and I like his portrayal of the character. But I understand it's not everybody's cup of tea, so I'll let it slide.
Yeah, because because it doesn't, like, Heath Ledger is, I mean, he feels iconic to me. And I think it's because I've seen Heath Ledger do other things, and then you suddenly see, like, Jack Nicholson as the Joker is really, like, it's Jack Nicholson. I mean, he's great at it, but he's still Nicholson. Heath Ledger sort of disappears into the role and becomes an entirely different person, which I think is what you want in an actor. And I still have, as dopey as it is, I still have a great affection for Cesar Romero's cackling 1966 version of.
Oh boy. All the little puzzles and whatnot. Oh, Batman, there's got to be a bad thing happen to you. Oh, you know, and then he's got the mustache showing through.
I think the puzzle aspect of the stories isn't as interesting as his performance. It's the same thing with Frank Gorshin's Riddler. Like, he's so insane and so crazy that I don't really care about the trap that he's put Batman and Robin in. I just like watching Frank Gorshin sort of enjoy himself in a role that he would never get again.
And then he shows up years later as a grumpy old man in the movie that nobody really remembers called Meteor Man.
Is he really in that?
He is. He plays the lead of the crime. He's the crime boss of all the criminal mafia in the small town that this guy lives in. He's the head of the crime mafia. Yeah, he is. He literally is. And he shows up at the end of the movie, has this really iconic scene. If you want to have a chance to take a look at this, I don't know where it's streaming the full movie, but that particular scene you can find on YouTube for sure, because people, cut and paste scenes on social media all the time. But if you look up Frank Gorshin and Meteor Man, look it up, check out his scene, some of the sequences that take place with his character. It's quite amusing. I'll leave you at that, because I don't want to give away spoilers, but feel free to dive into the YouTube universe a little bit and check that out, because Frank, him as this crime boss, it's pretty funny. I think it's pretty funny. It's a bit of a wink and a nod to his time when he was that villain back in the 60s of Batman and Robin. So, take it. What do you call it? Take it with a grain of salt, maybe. I don't know. But I guess it's fun stuff. But like we said before, Jim Beard does a lot of great stuff. I mean, he's got a book for like every different kind of property. Like, he did a book about what it was like watching Star Trek when he was a kid. What was it like watching the Japanese TV series, like you pointed out? All these different properties. So more power to you, Jim Beard. Because if there's one thing I like about interviewing, folks like Tom Mason and Jim Beard and all these other people on this show, is that I can hear, if not sense, the passion in your storytelling, the way you tell your stories, or the way you just enjoy being in this atmosphere, which is why we keep bringing back so many of these wonderful people on these different kind of shows every single day of the week and twice on Sunday. Isn't that right, Tom?
It is, but I absolutely have no passion whatsoever. So it's great that I've managed to fool you into thinking that there's actually passion and consideration in the work that I do.
Well, in a way, you present your story, I think, is cool. I'll just put it that way. Maybe I give you a little too much credit there, but I'm just trying to.
I have passion for the work as like I love puzzles. I have passion for the work of trying to solve the story puzzle. But I don't have passion necessarily for, like, it's never been like, if DC would never do this, but if DC called me up and said, "Hey, Tom, you want to write Batman for 4 issues or whatever?" I don't have a pitch, because I don't have that as one of my goals. That's not my passion. My passion is more to create my own thing and work on it myself. It's not really, it's comics, so you're not really working on it yourself, but to work on it with a team of other creators who buy into the dream. It's not really my goal to write. Congratulations to people who want to do that, and to the people who do that for a living. That's great for them. It's just that's not my particular passion for writing and creating.
Gotcha. Is there anyone you hope to work with or collaborate with somewhere down the line that you haven't had a chance to do so yet?
No, because I don't. I mean, my career is so random, and the work that has popped into me or popped my way has been just so odd and quirky that I don't really have, like, I know I'm supposed to say something like, Spielberg. I would love to work with Spielberg. It's like, well, I don't really, my brain doesn't work that way. I would just really like to work. I'd like to work with good people, and I'd like to work with some people that I've worked with in the past. And so I'm always sort of looking for that.
Gotcha. Understandably so. Once again, we are here with the incredible Tom Mason. Don't forget to like and share. And if you're watching us live on the replay, thank you for doing that. If you have any questions for him, let us know in the comments or the chat rooms down below. What is a motivational word or phrase that keeps you going when, you know, you're having a bit of a downtime or down, you know, you're feeling down on yourself or things aren't quite working out the way you thought? What is something that motivates you to keep going? Anything?
Well, I don't really look at my, I don't really look at my creative struggles in that way where I sort of get down on myself. It's like, it's not, I don't think I'm a terrible person if I can't solve the story problem. It's more like I'm going to have to reach out. And so I've got, over the years, I've put together a really good group. That's a tight group of friends. And we have an ongoing text group that we're in pretty much every day. And I'll just pitch it out to them and I'd say, here, this is what I'm doing. This is where I'm stuck. You know, give me something. And so I'll open it up to the group, and they'll give me a bunch of dopey ideas and make fun of me and call me names, and that's fine. And then out of that process, you know, I will get inspired to find the answer. And I think I think one of the things, and I've seen writers do this, but in the past, where a writer gets stuck on a problem, and their first reaction is they get down on themselves. And I think that's the path to madness. I think it's just writing and creating is just a problem to be solved. It's not indicative of some sort of personality defect that you might have. And so I think that's, if you can sort of separate those two things, you'll be better. And again,
in other words, the more you know.
I don't know if that answers your question, but there's my answer.
No, it's all good. It's all good. We respect any and all our responses, any of these questions we throw out there to the field or to the guest or guests who may be on set during these shows. I do want to take this opportunity to say thank you so much to Tom Mason for being our guest on this episode of Freewheeling Fridays. Tom, it was great to meet you. Great to have you here. All that good stuff. If someone wants to know more about you or keep up to date with your projects, where can they follow you on social media?
Well, so I'm on oddly enough, I'm on Blue Sky, where I post jokes and news and weird stuff like everybody else. I'm also on LinkedIn, which is, I don't know why anybody is on LinkedIn. I'm also on Facebook, and that's pretty much where you'll find me. Any of those three platforms.
Excellent. Well, thank you very much, Tom, for being here. I'm going to talk to you here again momentarily. So, in the words of Arnold, stick around. My name is Ryan of Anti-Quote Channel. I know that was a poor impression. I'm sorry to show that out there and torture you with that, Tom. But my name is Ryan of Anti-Quote Channel. Follow me across all forms of social media where you can see it, our name tag here. It says Anti-Quote Channel. Follow me across all forms of social media, Instagram, Facebook, the whole nine. Our YouTube channel where I do all my shows. I do the Anti-Quote Flagship Show on Saturdays, 12 p.m. Eastern Time. Movie watch-alongs where a movie turns a certain age. We do that on second, third, and fourth Fridays of the month at 7 p.m. EST. We have the Writer Showcase once a month on a Saturday at 7 p.m. EST. The next episode will drop on Saturday, April the 19th at 7 p.m. EST. We got a great lineup of guests for that show and that episode, so check that out there. And thank you for being a part of this. This has been a lot of fun. Great to know everybody. Great to meet all our guests who come into the studio. We get to see new people every week. We love doing it. And thank you once again, I should say, to Tom Mason, lazy writer extraordinaire. I would venture to say it's in his name tag, so I'm just going by what was in his name tag here on screen. Thank you for being with us. Do greatly appreciate it. Check out all the things that the Madness Entertainment Group's got going on this YouTube channel. They got a cajillion things going on. Don't forget to like, comment, share, subscribe, ring the bell to be notified when the videos go up or they go live. Remember, life is better when supporting other indie creators and great folks out there, such as the Madness Entertainment Group. And we'll see you on the next one, Freewheeling Fridays, 11 p.m. EST every Friday night. And yeah, you want to know more about the madness? Here, take a look.
Click on the tube and feel show you crave right here live. Heroes and villains clash in the night. Madness Comic Network sets it right. Scroll through the list, find what you need. Epic battles and fast-paced speed. From capes to cosmic space delight. Tune in and watch your favorites ignite. On Facebook, share the thrill so grand. On X, the buzz across the land. Madness Comic Network all around. In every episode, joy is found. Uploads, they never end. Superheroes and their friends catch every twist and every turn. Madness Comic, you will yearn. Stay up to date with every twist. Madness Comic, don't miss a gist. From laughter to tears, every mood. Madness Comic sets the groove. Click that button and subscribe. Catch the wave and ride the tide. Join the fun, join the craze. Madness Comic brightens days. Hey! New uploads, they never end. Superheroes and their friends catch every twist and every turn. Madness Comic, you will yearn. Stay up to date with every twist. Madness Comic, don't miss a gist. From laughter to tears, every mood. Madness Comic sets the groove. Click that button and subscribe. Catch the wave and